Have you ever wondered why some salespeople or business owners seem to effortlessly close deals after deal, while others with the same skills, same products, they seem to constantly struggle? The secret isn't just in how well you sell, it's about how well you follow up. Did you know that nearly half of all salespeople, 48% to be exact, never follow up with the prospect, not even once? Even more shockingly, only 10% go beyond three contacts. Yet 80% of all sales are made between the fifth and 12th follow up. Think about that. The majority of sales are won through persistence. Yet most business owners, most salespeople, they leave fortunes on the table simply because they stop reaching out. They stop reaching out too soon. So, welcome to Plan Life Right, the podcast dedicated to transforming your business into a great one. I'm Kevin Ross, and today's episode is a game changer. We're going to be diving deep into the strategies that separate the winners from the rest. It's the art and the science of the follow-up. So with me today is someone who's continuing to master that skill set, Matt Floyd. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin, I'm thrilled to be here. I really appreciate the invitation.
Matt, let's start big picture here. Everyone talks about, sales techniques, pitch mastery, product knowledge, but follow-up, it's rarely discussed. Why is it effective that follow-up, or what is an effective follow-up truly, or why is that truly the hidden key to extraordinary results in your opinion?
Well, I like that you said continuing to master the follow-up skill. Because if you are not constantly working on improving your follow-up skill, then you can find your sales start to decrease. It could be a number of reasons, but know this: follow-up is literally where fortunes are made or lost. You could have the best presentation, the greatest product, but if your follow-up game is weak, your prospects will drift away. A follow-up is about nurturing those relationships until the timing is right. You always say if you're following up with persistence, it will ensure you're their first call when they're ready to buy, or in my business, when they have a customer that is ready to find, lifetime income that they can't outlive.
Yeah, I love that, Matt. Fortunes are made or lost in the follow-up. So, Matt, today we're going to talk about, what I think are three fundamental keys that we talk about all the time, you and I, and that you, as a coach to your advisors, on. So let's jump into, number one, call it rotating the touch. What does that mean practically?
Well, I mean, essentially, rotating the touch is strategically cycling your methods of contact, calls, texts, emails. That way you can stay present without being intrusive. Imagine this. Let's just use real estate, for example. You're nurturing a buyer who's uncertain about purchasing. So you call them on day one. You send a personalized email with relevant market trends on day 10, and then follow up with a helpful text on, let's say, like day 20. By rotating that approach, you remain visible without overwhelming the client. They see you reaching out to them, and they're not like, oh God, this guy again, because they just heard from you three other times that week. It's, oh yeah, I forgot. Like, guys, he's trying to help me buy a house.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great point. That's really powerful. And it's applicable beyond real estate, right? We're not just
Oh
talking
yeah,
about real estate.
absolutely. I mean, whether you're in automotive sales, financial planning, even B2B tech solutions, the same principle applies. You keep a healthy distance, but you remain unmistakably present in their mind.
Yeah, I think that's a key. I used to tell all my sales guys, and you too, is you got to be present. If you're on the call or you're belly to belly, you got to be present, when you're there talking to them. And then when you're not, you still got to maintain that presence, right?
Exactly.
Um, so I think that's perfect. So the second principle, let's talk about it's based on value, and I believe that's pivotal. So explain in detail, some of the examples in different industries.
Yeah. So basing on value means never reaching out empty-handed, basically. So each touch point, you got to offer a genuine tailored value. For example, if you're an insurance agent and your client struggles with justifying premium costs for cash value life insurance over cheap term insurance, you can send them resources on how to increase that tax-free income and maximize coverage that won't go to way. And you can help them explain to their client how over the long term, the affordability and cost justification vanishes. A lot of agents and advisors, they go with, here's your premium, here's your death benefit. That's the end of the conversation. They never really get in to the conversation where they show their money where their money is going, or they show their client where their money is going and how it's growing. And that is what's key about cash value life insurance. It's not a premium, it's not a death benefit, it's a cash asset. And if you don't know how to talk to your clients about that, then their clients are at a loss as well as you, because you're not going to get the sale. Somebody that can't explain that to your client is going to snake that deal right out from under you. And that's life insurance. That's our business, life insurance and annuities. But you look at tech sales. If a prospect is unsure about implementation, you can send them a case study or a tutorial video highlighting the ease of use. That way, you're offering solutions tailored to their needs, not generic content. And that's really key. You're not calling to ask them how the weather is, in Kenosha. You don't care. They know you don't care. You're offering to say, hey, I have a way I'm helping your business. This is why I'm reaching out.
Yeah, that's key. The customized approach, it builds genuine trust and authority. Speaking of customization, tell us about your content management system. How does that keep your follow-up effective and efficient? That's something I'm always big on. Hey, did you check with this guy? And a lot of salespeople are like, oh yeah, I need to call them. So tell us about your approach, how you keep it organized, because I think you do a
Yeah,
really
I mean,
good job.
organization is key, and I can't say I have the perfect system because I'm constantly tweaking it here and there for maximum efficiency. But let's say your CRM is limited and doesn't allow for ease of maneuverability and scheduling. Well, then use a spreadsheet. Open up Excel. You can create a category, each type of client, industry, application. You can list their pain points. Each item includes keywords for quick retrieval. You can just do a control find. It transforms follow-up from this hit or miss guesswork into a more like a precise and strategic relationship building mechanism that you're using. But in today's day and age and technology, your CRM should be able to do this, and you want to be able to see rather quickly what your last conversations and touch points were. You don't want to have that conversation with like, oh, so how much are you doing in annuities a year when you already asked them that question last time? Then they're going to think you're not listening. I'm just a number on this guy's call list. Next, and he's going to hang up on you. And then the amount of follow-up you have to do to get that guy back on the phone is definitely not worth the 10 seconds it takes to take some quick notes about your last call.
Yeah, that's key. It's really, that's brilliant. Let's talk about the follow-up rotation. So break this down clearly with some examples from both the short term, like what a short term and a long term follow-up. What's that look like?
Right. So, certainly short-term follow-up, especially after a misappointment or a no-show, it's aggressive, but yet professional. You reach out every 3 days initially. I mean, I would reach out immediately after the no-show. If you had a 1 p.m. call and it's, 1:25 and he still hasn't called, call him, say, hey, I had us on our schedule today. Just want to make sure that I had the right time. Put it as possibly it's my fault. Maybe I got the wrong day or time. If he doesn't call you back that day, wait 3 days because you're busy. You're not sitting by the phone waiting for just this one client. You shouldn't be, not if you're going to be successful. So you reach out about every 3 days initially. So take a fitness coach as an example. After a missed consultation, you follow up with a call. Then 3 days later, supportive email about achieving fitness goals. Then 3 days later, you hit them with a text offering to reschedule. Then after a month, you would want to shift to a more long-term follow-up, touching base every I'd say 10 days or so, 10 days to 2 weeks. That way you're kind of, nurturing it, massaging it rather than trying to chase them down,
Yeah, that's a great point. I like the system there. I think, for a lot of the listeners out there and, my experience, working with new salespeople as well as salespeople have been doing it for a while, the fear of appearing desperate, or if you're
Right.
in phone sales, sounding desperate.
Right. And that
Yeah,
does come across. That comes across that line. As much as a curse word would come across the line, they can tell you're desperate. Within a few seconds, they know you're desperate.
that's a great point. I always tell people, people, oh, I like phone sales. They can't see what you're doing, but tonality is really
Yep. They can hear
important.
you.
Yeah, they can hear you, and good people, they understand, oh, this person sounds desperate, or if they hear that desperation in your voice, then you've lost your credibility right out of there.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. It's
you got
tonality and timing. That's really what it comes down to. You never call more than once a day. I mean, even calling every day is desperate because if you're any good and you want this prospect to think you're any good, you should have a full day. You took time out of the other day for this person. Well, now I have a full calendar for the next week or so. And when you do call out, you don't sound desperate. You just say, "Hey, I had a couple minutes in between meetings. I figured I'd try you again. Maybe we get another meeting on the books." Click, give me your number. Click, that's it. Or shoot that text out. That way you kind of elevate your status, that you're somebody other people are talking to, and maybe your prospect should be talking to you too. So you want to communicate value, respect for their time. You also don't know what's happening on the other end of that phone. Could have a kid in the hospital, could have gotten in a car accident, could have got some really bad news. You never know what's going on that end, so you don't want to assume. So you just communicate value, respect, and urgency, and you position yourself as that busy professional offering valuable solutions. Not someone waiting desperately by the phone. Kind of just, I tell a lot of my clients, I'm like, listen, I'm here to help you in your endeavors. You're not here to help me in mine. Like I have something that helps you, and that's why I'm reaching out. And you kind of basically say, if you don't want my help, fine, but you don't say it like that.
Yeah, it's a really good point. You don't want to say that. That's a good point.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I can't tell you what these. I can't tell you how many times I get a call. There's no voicemail. Then immediately that same number calls back again. Then nothing. And then maybe the third attempt, after a couple hang ups, they leave a voicemail, and you can hear the desperation in that voicemail, or you can tell they're reading the script. It that drives me crazy. And whenever I get I hang up, and then finally a voicemail. I'm not calling that guy back. I already know that whoever's calling me, they're unprofessional. So
Right.
they've lost any chance of ever doing business. They may have the best product. I'm going to go find the competition, and if I need that product, and buy it from someone else.
Yeah, and
So
apparently they have plenty of time on their hand too, because they have time to just sit there and well, I mean, it's not a prank phone call, but that's basically what it is because your phone's ringing and you're not answering it, and there's not anybody on the other end of the line anyway.
Well, you know what it is? A lot of companies have a mandatory. You got to have so many dial outs, and
Right,
so these kids, especially, maybe there's seasoned people. They're doing it to get their volume up, but at the end of the day, making a hang up, and then finally a voicemail, and they're counting that three. Nobody's making any money. The company's losing money. The
right,
salesperson isn't getting paid on doing three dials. Maybe they've got a threshold, but they're not going to ever make any real money selling anything if they're hanging up. So
right.
leave
Yeah,
the
I mean, it's
voicemail.
I mean, sales is a marathon. And anybody who thinks that sales is a sprint race, it's not. I mean, there are very few, we call them laydowns. There's very few laydowns in your career. 50-year career you could have, you might get a dozen or two laydowns in that amount of time. It's
Exactly.
consistent follow-up. And if you're training for a marathon, you go to any marathon training coach, he's not going to tell you to go run in place for 4 hours. He's going to say, get out there and start putting miles under your feet,
That's right.
start
That's
pounding the
right. Get
pavement. And
feel
calling
the
and hanging
ground.
up, calling without a reason, calling and not leaving a voicemail. No, that is all just running in place.
Great
You're
point.
active, but you're not productive.
That's right. So Matt, let's do this. Let's role play. I call it, you call it your famous three call follow up sequence. Let's do that. How you do that? Show us what a compelling voicemail sounds like. Can you do
Yeah,
that?
so I mean, day one, your voicemail might sound like this, like, "Hey Sarah, it's Matt here. Looks like we're scheduled to connect in a few minutes. I'm running slightly behind, but I will be available briefly. Please call me at," and then I give them my number. Then on day two, you reinforce gently, you know? And then day three, you clearly state it's your final attempt. Like, "Sarah, we've missed each other a number of times. I've done what I can to get in touch with you. Um, I've left a couple messages, haven't heard back. I've sent you a few emails. This will be my last attempt. When you're ready for our conversation, you can reach me at, this number, or grab my email and click that Calendly link and book a time that's convenient for you, where you know you're going to be, and then I will reach back out to you then." But, basically you're saying, "Hey, I'm not going to chase you all over this yard."
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Eh,
and that increases callbacks because you create urgency without desperation. Just an example, just from a few weeks ago, I had this guy. Um, I got his name out of a webinar. He was an attendee, but he asked a good question. I was like, "That's somebody I'd like to work with." So I called him. He said, "Yeah, sure. Call me tomorrow at 1 o'clock." I called him at 1, no answer. Called him the next day, no answer. Waited a few days, tried him again. The voicemail I left him was, "Listen, when you're sick of chasing nickels and dimes, call me. I'll show you how to catch Benjamins." I left him my phone number. He called me back the very next day. We talked for 2 hours. So it
love
was
it.
like, "Hey, I'm trying here, but I'm not going to do it for you. You've got to participate." And that's really all you're trying to get him to do, is participate and hear you out. And
That's right.
even if you're a decent salesperson, the fact that you're following up, you're already, like you said, a head and shoulders above the majority of sales guys that are out there. Everybody's out there trying to sink it from the tee. Everybody's looking for that hole in one. Most golf is
Right.
not played that way. And the most successful golfers don't play that way.
Right. Exactly. Great insights. And I'm going to ask this. Are you really stopping after the third attempt?
No,
Because,
I don't. But I will start to gap them out a little bit.
yeah, okay.
I'll start spacing out how often I reach out to them. And then the voicemails are going to change too. Like I said, it's that one of those, it's 10 till the top of the hour. "Hey, I had a few minutes before my next meeting. I'd like to get something on the books with you. Just give me a call back. You'll probably have to leave me a message." That's telling, "Hey, where I'm going, you're not going to be able to contact me. This was your chance to talk to me now. Call me back and leave me a message, then I'll get back to you." Kind of puts that ball back in their court, without letting them realize you threw the ball at them.
Yeah,
No, what is it, 37%? They quit after that second or third contact,
that's right.
and 80% of the sales are made a few more contacts past that.
That's right.
You're getting out of the mine 5 feet away from striking gold. And it's just that one more call that gets it. And maybe they were ready for that call that day, and you didn't call them, and your competition did, and they got that sale, first call, first sale.
Exactly right.
It's all about that timing. You got to be there for when that timing changes. You want to be that number that's showing up on their phone.
That's right. You want to be top of mind without being obnoxious, and you want to be able to if you're following up correctly. A lot of people hate it, obviously, because you went over the numbers. I went over the numbers in the intro. But the key is, and where I think a lot of salespeople miss the boat, is a lot of times, and I just was talking to a business owner today. He'd been calling. It was like $1 million sale. I think he said he reached out like 27 different times over course of 6 months or a year, whatever. And then the guy shows up in the office, the guy in the office, and the business owner comes out and he was like, "Hey man, what changed your mind? What happened?" He goes, "Well, now I'm ready to buy." So all those voicemails and reaching out, it wasn't connecting. And the business owner kind of thought, well, I'm just gonna, he's in my follow up. I have a process, and lo and behold, that last voice, it was timing, and then that guy shows up and does $1 million deal because he was top of mind. He was persistent, and he was keying up on that follow up. And I think, and the numbers don't lie. That's the real
Yeah.
key. And here, man, we got to share this. I think you've got crazy acronyms and stuff that you make up, and I'm like, I never even thought of that. It seems like daily you've got something, but you call this your ghost busting approach.
Yeah.
And that's when a prospect that vanishes or ghost you, and actually you just shared one that this guy ghosted you. So share that, and let's talk about your ghost busting approach and how it works, because you actually just had a win. I think you said yesterday
Yeah,
from
this guy that I had reached out to initially last year before Christmas, and he was saying he was dragging his feet like all most prospects do. I don't want to make any changes before the end of the year. And then when I talked to him in January, I don't want to make any changes this month. Call me in February. Kind of just kicking that can down the road. Well, then I started calling him, and then he stopped answering, and then his voicemail was full. So I did my due diligence. I went out there. I mean, sometimes the worst happens. I looked in the obituaries for the guy, but he was still alive. So I just got to Google, and like 3 or 4 pages down, there was like a Google business review, and it had a different phone number for him. I called it. He picked up on the first ring. We talked for 45 minutes. And his birthday's next week. He's like, right after my birthday, I'm sitting down, I'm redoing my whole business. I want to use you. I've had your name on my post-it note right here, been meaning to call you. I just haven't found the time. And I was like, well, thank God we found the time together.
right.
But I mean, it happens. And if you've got through your call list, who are you going to call? Call the people that ghosted you. What do you have to
Exactly.
lose? The worst they can say is no, but hey, at least you have your answer. You can strike them off your list.
Yeah,
And
exactly. You probably already had a conversation. That's what and a lot of times, as salespeople, we always gotta keep ourselves motivated. So we've never had a bad call, right?
right,
Because somebody talked to us and we're so excited, and then you think that you've got this guy locked down, and then they disappear, they ghost you,
right.
and so people just quit. And so, you know, that's that's a great um, your Ghostbusting approach. You
Yeah.
proved it once again. It works, and it does work. I've been doing this for a long time, as well as you, and that's a key. That's a difference. That's a separator between the good or average salesperson to a great one.
And he was getting my voicemails because he even mentioned in one of the voicemails I left him was, hey, I'm worried about you. I haven't heard anything. Like let's reconnect just so I mean, if you're gonna go another way, that's fine. But just get back to me because we were starting to develop a relationship, and I just want to make sure maybe I said something, you took it out of context, or there was a misunderstanding. I just like to
Right.
clear the air. Even if you are going another way, man, I want to wish you the best of luck. And I'm going to go after somebody in your town to use my process. So good luck to you. But, and I just left him that message that I was worried about him because I hadn't heard
Yeah.
from him. And
Yeah.
he was always picked it up on the first ring every time I called him. And then the pattern was off. So
Right.
I was really just looking for him to say, yeah, I went another way. Thanks for reaching out. Like, thanks for being concerned about me. It's not all that crazy, but
That's right.
it ended up just being that he was really busy. His birthday's coming up right around the corner. His family's planning stuff. He's got family in town. There was just
Yeah.
so many excuses that he had on his plate that I was falling down. And
Right.
he
That's
probably
right.
knew I was going to keep calling him because he knows, like, man, this guy's persistent, which is
Yeah. Well,
another
that's the
reason why he
key.
wants to work with me because I'm not just going to give
Persistent.
up on that first call. I'm going to help you find a solution. But I mean, just a simple voicemail like, hey, Jake, I tried reaching you a few times, no response. How would you like to proceed?
Yeah.
That it puts it at a question on their end. And it's the ball in their court, respectfully. It's clearly in their court now. And you kind of just you sit back and wait. And if they don't ever call you, fine. But that's a waste of your time that's off your plate. And again, when you have a few minutes between meetings, dial the number. You never know what's going to happen.
That's right. That I've always said there's three things that can happen from a sales call, and two of them are good. A yes, that's awesome. No, that's still okay. At least you know where you stand. The maybes, they waste so much time. And so many times I've seen salespeople, they take that maybe and they just run with the maybe. They're chasing the maybe. And all this time's wasted when, you could go out and find yes or no, and you're moving on. And again, sales is a
Right.
numbers thing, but you do have to follow up. But the maybes could drive you crazy.
Yeah,
Before
I mean,
we
there's
wrap up, Matt, what's one piece of advice you'd give our listeners to take their follow up skills from good to great?
consistency. Get consistent with it. Create a plan that you're comfortable with. You don't have to use my, next day, 3 day, 7 day. You don't have to use somebody else's. Find one that you're comfortable with. And as long as you can be consistent, it's going to be the perfect follow-up game because it'll just become part of the machine that drives you. And your communication's got to be value based. You can't just call to shoot the breeze.
That's
I mean,
right.
you can call them, wish them happy birthday if you know it's their birthday, but
Right.
if you don't have a new product to discuss with them, or you don't have an opportunity for them to seize, or if you're not communicating something of value, then they're going to look at that as a waste of time. They're going to be less likely to answer your call next time because it's like, oh, here's Matt. He's just calling to shoot the breeze. He's bored
That's
at
right.
work. I'm busy. I don't have time to talk to him right now, even if they're not.
That's right.
And you want to always position yourself as an authority and stay committed to being organized and having that strategic follow-up. I mean, that's where greatness lives. That's the true path from good to great and follow-up, really. And that's really all it comes down to. It's simple. It's so simple you wonder why more people don't do it, but it's the ones that stick to it. They're the ones that are successful.
Right. That's right. That's outstanding, Matt. Great insights. Before we wrap up, let's recap today's powerful conversation so our listeners have clear, actionable steps that they can implement, immediately. So first, you rotate your communication, your
Right.
calls, your texts, your emails. Stay in front of your prospects without overwhelming them.
Yeah.
Your second, always base your follow-ups on delivering personalized, high-value content tailored
Right.
directly to your prospect specific needs. So know your prospect. Third, maintain an organized and strategic follow-up system that Matt talked about that clearly distinguishes short-term, aggressive outreach, and then transitioning to a nurturing long-term communication. Lastly, master your authority through tonality, timing, and confident positioning of yourself as an expert rather than someone desperate for business. And
Yeah.
implement these strategies consistently. You'll transform your follow up approach from good to exceptional, securing more opportunities and ultimately increasing your success and lining your pockets from the
Yeah, and I'd
sales.
say I'd say add one more to that. Celebrate your small wins too. Somebody who ghosted you 6 months ago who picks up the phone today, celebrate that. And that'll reinforce you to stick with your process because the process works. You know it does. So just stick
That's
with it.
right.
So, I was elated to talk to that guy yesterday. I was like, oh my God. Like, first off, I was like, thank God he's not dead,
Yeah, right.
It's like that was my first thing. And then I was like, oh, see, follow-up works. Like I could have just said, oh, he probably died and just moved on. And one of our competitors could have been the next phone call
That's
to his
right.
phone that he picked up. And it was
That's
me
right.
instead. And I heard his phone ringing the whole time I was talking to him. That was probably my competition.
That's right.
Maybe on their first or second call, but he's basically decided he's already going to go with us.
That's
So it's
right.
just a matter of putting pen to paper at this point.
Great point. You know, I want everybody to remember these stats. And Matt knows this, and anybody that's ever worked for me has heard me say this. And it is the key that 48% of salespeople or business owners never follow up on the lead. 48% never follow up. 10% make more than three attempts. Yet 80% of all sales happen after the fifth contact. After five contacts, 80% of those sales happen then. But less than 10% do go more than three attempts. So don't be average. Master your follow up. Matt, I want to thank you immensely. Your insights are gold. I know our listeners will immediately benefit if they apply your strategies.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure, man. And, consistency and value-driven communication truly does make all the difference. I mean, follow up, follow up, follow up. And don't be a
Love
Hail
it.
Mary quarterback. You can't name one famous quarterback that's famous for making all his touchdowns via Hail Mary.
That's
That's what you're doing
exactly
when you're trying to
right.
do a one call sale.
Exactly.
Dink and dunk down the field. That's how you end up in the Hall of Fame.
100%. So, uh, for all you listeners out there, I want to thank you guys for listening to Plan Life Right. Remember, life happens fast, opportunities come and go. The question remains, are you prepared to seize them? I want you to take action today. You got to master your follow ups. If you do, I promise your business is going to soar. And I want you guys to join us next week. We've got some more exciting episodes to help you grow as a business owner, as a salesperson. If you're an advisor, like and subscribe to Advisor Rescue. If you're a listener, you're not in the financial planning business, but you are in sales, like and subscribe to Plan Life Right. It's all about keeping your life, your plan right to have a system in place. So stay focused, stay driven, and we'll see you soon. Like, subscribe, and follow. Thank you.